Moussa Diaby scores on his debut. Jaden Philogene impresses again. All that as Aston Villa beat Fulham 2-0. Welcome to All Villa, No Filler. Please like and subscribe if you love the mighty Aston Villa. In tribute to Orlando, I have got my most Florida shirt on. I have tried to go full Florida here. I've even got like a Miami Vice sort of lighting display here. You know, the plants. So I kind of look like it could be in GTA Vice City, I think. A side character. Somebody who probably gets whacked and taken out in the first scene of the game. Now, I was awake very, very late. I stayed up till midnight to watch the game, and then it got pushed back until about, I think it was 1:15 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning. Didn't get to bed till about 3:30, 4:00. I had to be up very early. So I'm currently loading up on coffee, drinking as much coffee as I can. But I tell you what, it was well worth it. Aston Villa were the most magical thing to turn up in Orlando since Walt Disney put up a castle and gave Mickey Mouse his first job. But there was nothing Mickey Mouse about Aston Villa, was there? Okay, that might be an exaggeration, but look, it was pretty good. So let's focus on the whole game itself first, and then we'll talk a little bit more in depth about some of the good things and the bad. Overall with the game, it felt like Unai Emery was experimenting kind of with his formation, as he said in the interview after the game. So Conte came in at right back. That's a position everybody in Villa world has been focusing on, you know, now that Ashley Young's gone to Everton. I shed a tear for that. Genuinely, I love the man. So Matty Cash and Conte seem to be like the two options at right back. So Emery tried it out. He had Conte at right back. Diego Carlos came in, Pau Torres, and then Luca Digne at left back. Now, what tended to happen when Villa were in a defensive shape is that Villa went to a 4-4-2, and we just let Fulham play around it and play around and play around and just let them have it, kind of similar to what we did at Anfield against Liverpool a few months ago. It reminded me a bit of that, where we let the opposition have the ball. McGinn was playing as that second striker as he did at Anfield, but the defensive line was so high that there wasn't really a lot of room for Fulham or Liverpool at Anfield to play around in. All while, if they tried to start from deep, McGinn could just, or the other striker, you know, on this case Cameron Archer, could just pull onto the CDM. Now, it wasn't quite as extreme as what happened to Liverpool in that sense. But what I did notice with the 4-4-2 is that the shape, immediately, the Villa players would get into that shape, play the high line, and then anytime, it felt like Fulham were constantly trying to knock a ball over the top to where our right-back position was. It felt like they obviously have studied Aston Villa. I feel like everybody now knows that Aston Villa play that high line and that they're going to try and exploit it. Newcastle actually did an okay-ish job, though I think a couple of their chances would have been offside if the VAR was there. But Fulham, it just kind of felt like in the first half particularly, they weren't able to really do anything at all, and Robin Olsen didn't have to deal with anything. But that also goes down to how disciplined Villa were defensively, because the ball would come over the top and Conte would be there, but also Jaden Philogene would be tracking back almost like a wing back, so go to a back four and at times even just a back five. It was impressive defensive display, I thought, in the first half. And then in attack, well, things got very interesting, didn't they? Because when Villa would knock the ball forward, when they get that, Luca Digne was on his way. He was like Forrest Gump running, and you just asked Forrest Gump, why were you running? He said he just felt like running. But I tell you, Luca Digne didn't feel like running. Well, he did. But he didn't feel like running. He had a plan because Professor Unai had told him what to do. And that was, basically, when Villa got the ball, Digne would push forward and he'd be almost effectively playing as a sort of a, what would you call it? Kind of like a loose additional midfielder, an additional winger. And then the remaining defenders would move into a very clear back three. So then you'd have Diego Carlos in the middle, Conte would pull across, and Pau Torres was there as well. And I quite liked it. I thought it worked out pretty well. And I think it gives Villa another solid option if Emery wants to play around with the formation at any point in the season, or, you know, play a different style against different teams in the league. So Luca Digne would push forward, and then you would effectively had a formation that kind of looked like a 3-2-3-2 or 3-1-4-1. It was quite interesting to watch, and you would have Buendia going from out to in. You know, he played on the left side again, getting closer to Cameron Archer, and that would free up space for Luca Dean to just keep on running rampant. Now, obviously, I don't think that's Luca Dean's sort of most natural game. And I think I think you clearly see why Unai Emery wanted Alex Moreno so much, because that man is made for that exact role. So tactically, I thought Villa looked disciplined, they looked good, and Fulham couldn't really do anything at all in the first half. Second half, Fulham did create quite a few chances, but I tend to think that might have been just down to the fact that Villa changed it up so much with the personnel that you are just going to naturally disrupt the flow of the game somewhat. But let's focus on the good now, right? Youri Tielemans, man of the match, played the entire 90 minutes, which was interesting. By the way, did you enjoy watching the footage of him with the camera on him against Newcastle? Lovely stuff. You don't get time on the ball at the highest level, do you? You got to think very, very quick. Those guys are really, really talented athletes. Tielemans, what I liked about him, intelligent. Just an intelligent player, right position, good balls, good passing, simple passing, and suddenly you look at the squad depth and you think, right, if Tielemans isn't going to play this week, well, then Douglas Luiz is starting there. But, we've got a game on Thursday. So I'll tell you what, we'll put Tielemans in centre mid and Douglas Luiz can take a break and come back on Sunday. To have two players who could be so interchangeable is awesome. And to be honest, Tielemans and Douglas Luiz played together in centre midfield in the second half, and it was Kamara who came off. So that potentially is also an option that Villa could pursue this season. But I was really pleased with Tielemans' performance. I think I've always rated him, and I think he's almost got a bit of a Gareth Barry nature about him in that, he's an intelligent player, good on the ball, does the simple stuff really well, but also can impact the game, in different ways. For instance, the first goal Villa scored, that all started with a fantastic crossfield ball from Youri Tielemans into Luca Dean, who'd made that run forward. He was already forward, and he puts the ball, and then eventually works his way back to Luca Dean after some passing with Amy Buendia. Ball in, and Jaden Philogene gets in ahead of the defender at the back post. 1-0 super Aston Villa. But Tielemans, that was a really good display. And I've spoken to Sam Tighe about him, great journalist that Sam Tighe is, and he did mention before that Tielemans has played a lot of football in his career, though he's still a relatively young footballer. So his time at Aston Villa could actually be beneficial to his career if he isn't playing every single week 90 minutes, if he's able to just take those games out and not be totally relied on all the time. So we can't not mention Jaden Philogene. What a goal, eh? What a performance. He did everything really that you could have asked for him. Defensively, getting back and helping out at the right back, Konsa, throughout the first half, playing effectively as a wing back when Villa were defending, helping to put Villa into a 5 at the back if that needed to happen. But also then when he got the ball, he would look to cut inside and try and make some intricate passes. He would try and impact the game in some way. There were a couple of moments he came inside and attempted a through ball, which on a couple of occasions was very close to coming off. He looked like a player who the defenders didn't really enjoy playing against. And on top of that, of course, he gets the goal. So that's 2 games now in pre-season. Well, 3, I guess, if you include Warsaw. But 2 games in the summer series, Newcastle and Fulham, where, Jaden Philogene has impressed and shown enough that he's probably worth sticking around with this summer. Think back to John McGinn's post-match interview against Newcastle, where he said the coaches had said to him that, Philogene had impressed. He'd seen that Philogene had grown from a year ago before we went to Cardiff. And of course, playing for a high-quality team like Cardiff in a high-quality league like the Championship for a full year when you're just a young teenager, that's an amazing experience. And to win Young Player of the Season there as well, excellent stuff. So he's come in and, look, it is just pre-season. The acid test is the Premier League. But surely the test for him is to show what he can do in pre-season to Unai Emery. And he's done that, really, hasn't he? He's shown enough already that he is willing to do the hard stuff, like the unpleasant stuff as an attack you don't really want to do, which is running back and forth and defending, helping your defence. But on top of that, also driving forward, showing skill, impacting it, getting goals, getting assists. I think he's already done enough to suggest that he's worth sticking with this summer and hopefully this season. I hope that happens at least even till January. Just give the guy a chance till January. And if it ain't working out, there's always a loan option there, of course, because I'm sure there would be no shortage of takers. Another performance I liked, Pau Torres and Diego Carlos. Well, Pau Torres, it's poetry. It's poetry. I just get my little notepad out and I just want to start writing poetry to Pau. Wow, you make me just cow in awe at what you do. I haven't won any poetry prizes before. I think you can see why. But Pau Torres gets the ball, plays it simple. But on top of that, he's also got such a good body shape. Sometimes it gets away from players. Already seen that in 2 games that you can see why this is a Spanish international, why it's a player who's won the Europa League, why it's a player who's played in the Champions League semi-finals. He's really good. And you see why Unai Emery wanted to be reunited with him. And then on top of that, Diego Carlos came back. Did very well in the centre of that back 3. When Villa were attacking, he'd be there to sort of marshal the defence and lead the line. I liked what I saw. The only problem at the moment for Diego Carlos is that against Newcastle, of course, he looked a little bit off the pace, which is understandable because he's been out for a year. I mean, it's going to be tough, isn't it, to come back. But on top of that, against Fulham, he looked much more at the pace, particularly defensively. But sometimes that distribution, the long balls look quite good. They sometimes tend to come off, but those sort of more simple passes at times weren't always working. So he's probably just going to have to play his way back into sharpness and fitness to get back up to speed in that. And then Cameron Archer. Look, he made an exceptional run for the penalty, won the penalty. I'm sure he would have scored the chance he was about to take. Everybody misses penalties. Even Matt Letizia missed one. I think it was out of a million. Well, everyone misses except Anwar El Ghazi. He never missed penalties. But Cameron Archer, look, it's what happens, whatever. It was a brilliant save from Berleno. It was a really good penalty in the bottom corner. And then on top of that, Cameron Archer then followed up and made another good run. Great ball from John McGinn. And Archer was just kind of unlucky to miss that chance. But the thing is, look, as a striker, you want to see them getting into those positions, don't you? You want to see them getting chances. So if he keeps getting into them positions, those chances will keep coming and those goals will come too. And I'm sure that he knows that. So whatever happened against Fulham where, he missed the penalty or missed one good chance, at the same time, he showed that with his movement, that he's intelligent, that he's a player that, will get chances. And so I'm fully confident that, as a player who's proved himself wherever he's been tested so far, that he'll come back from that. Just keep getting into those positions, keep getting those chances, and eventually you'll take one, and who knows where you can go from there. But I think he showed enough against Fulham that he is a player who can cause problems for Premier League defences. As I say about Jaden Philogene, of course, I get it. You don't need to remind me. I know the acid test is the Premier League. But surely he's showing enough in that Fulham game that there is a player there and that it's worth probably just giving him a chance. Again, until January, and if it ain't working, there's always a loan available. So second half, things changed up. Moussa Diaby came on and made his debut. And interestingly, Moussa Diaby, who was probably better known as a right winger at Bayer Leverkusen, and that's kind of the position I still think he'll play in at Villa, but he played as the second striker off Ollie Watkins, who came on for Cameron Archer. Well, he didn't look half bad, did he, Moussa Diaby? He sort of plays at a pace of an elite player. I think elite attackers sometimes just have a knack of knocking a ball around the corner, or just their movement, their speed of thought just looks a little bit quicker, doesn't it? And I think he demonstrated that in patches against Fulham. And, well, what a way to start your Aston Villa career with a goal, huh? I am fully believing that man's lifting a Ballon d'Or now. That's how delirious I was at 3:30 a.m. when I watched that ball whack into the net. And I cheered so loud, I woke up the entirety of the street. And they're all currently probably listening in through the wall right now going, I wish that guy would just shut the hell up about Aston Villa. Well, I ain't shutting up because, look, fantastic ball from Douglas Luiz. He took the pass in, I think it was from Revan. And Douglas Luiz, my goodness. More on him in a sec. But he sort of drags it away, finds his own position again. Ball over the top. Good run from Moussa Diaby. Takes it in his stride. Difficult chance, it was difficult to get onto that, but the speed to get away from the defender and then the way he smacked that ball under the Fulham keeper. I like that. Second striker, shows his versatility because he can play it on the wing, he can play as the second striker clearly, and he can play on the left as well. So that's what Unai Emery wants. He wants versatility, and I would like to see another versatile player come in, but Very pleased with what we saw. How can you not be excited by seeing that last night? And then deadly Douglas Luiz. What a beautiful, beautiful footballer. He is a beautiful footballer. I wish I could play football like deadly Douglas Luiz does. I just think he's getting to the level. I think he's getting to a really, really elite level on such a consistent basis. Football looks easy to him. And he looks like he's got the ability to be a starting midfielder for the Brazil international team. I'm struggling to see weaknesses at the moment because every time he gets the ball, he'll make the simple pass. But then what he also has a real knack of doing, as he did for the goal. Watch the replay back of Diaby's goal and watch what Douglas Luiz does. Luiz could, with his back to the opposition goal, he could just play it back to a defender, right? Play the simple pass. And that's fair enough. Go for that. But what he did, and he does this a lot, is he put his foot on the ball and he sort of drags it back and creates kind of its own space in which he can then look forward and look for a more progressive pass. It's a bit of a superpower, and it's very it's hard to describe it, but it's a very subtle thing he does, I think, and it's something I love to watch him do. And he creates that, and then because he did that, he was able to make the progressive pass because he saw the run that Diaby had made, a really good run, and just perfectly weighted pass to him. Deadly Douglas Luiz. There was a reason Pep Guardiola didn't want to sell him a few years ago. I remember the press conference where Pep Guardiola was asked about him, and he was looking angry. There was steam coming out the man's ears. Well, I would not be surprised if Pep Guardiola is fluttering the eyelashes of that man if Douglas Luiz can continue with his form that he's been showing in recent times. I really think that we have an elite level midfielder here, and I can't wait to see what he does this season. Otherwise, I think something worth mentioning is that Fulham did have a lot of chances in the second half. Vinicius, I don't think he's the most prolific striker that's ever existed. I think that had there been a better striker in his place, say a Mitrovic, I think Fulham would have scored. And then on top of that, Harry Wilson, my goodness, how on earth he missed that chance, I don't know. And then at the end, Revan made a really good last-ditch tackle to stop Fulham scoring as well. And of course, Emi Martinez as well in front of a big Argentinian crowd. Oh, yes. Lots of Argentinians there. Love that. He made a big save. It was really impressive. Great stuff. Yeah, I think Aston Villa in the second half were not as defensively sure as they were in the first. But I'm just going to put that down to, so many changes in the team that it is just going to disrupt you a bit. And it's not the normal 11 who play together all the time. So that's it. Aston Villa won 2-0. Unai Emery got to experiment with his tactics a bit. It is only pre-season, but Aston Villa pick up 3 points in the summer series. And I tell you what, I think you'd much rather be a team that's doing okay in pre-season at least, who looks like a team that's learning from mistakes made in previous games and growing, rather than a team that just turns up and loses, doesn't do very well, doesn't show much. Of course, the acid test is going to be St James's Park in a few weeks. Who knows what's going to happen there? Really tough place to go, particularly on the first day of the season. But it ain't half bad to see your team in pre-season show such squad depth, but at the same time, tactical ingenuity, moments of class, and growth. So yes, well done Aston Villa. We like to see these wins, and may another one come against Brentford in the near future. Like I say, please like and subscribe if you love the Villa, and if you don't subscribe, you might just support Birmingham City. There, I said it. So you got to subscribe now. Come on, up the mighty Villa.